into quantitative and into qualitative. Unless this is the full set of slides, please tell me that I've done that. Hold on, let me just see if this is the full set of slides. Hold on. Yeah, my apologies. Just give me a fraction of a second. Okay, let me use this set rather. Okay, so the simple truth is that we're going to have to try and split this into quantitative and qualitative sessions because, you know, we're going different avenues. However, it might be worth spending a little bit of time in terms of learning what the other side is doing as well, although your golden thread is still very important. So in terms of your data collection, I think that the data collection part is quite nerve-wracking. For qualitative people, the interviews are quite daunting. I need to know how you guys feel about doing the interviews. Is there anyone nervous? Is there anyone believe that they are going to struggle with that? Is anyone nervous about the interviews? Okay, well, that's wonderful news. Okay, so Neil, do yourself a favor, just do a dry run on a friend. So use the interviews, even if it's people who don't really know much about the topic. Yeah, Monly, the same thing. Go do a dry run on somebody that you can trust. So just get into the kind of, that's fine, Nath. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay, Tatisi, the same thing. So I think do a dry run. Please make sure that if you're doing face-to-face, that you've got the additional recordings, or if you are going to do online, that you have the platform set up. Can I see, is everyone using online recordings or is anyone doing face-to-face? Okay, just make sure that you get a dry run on your questions. I think also in terms of the dry run, that is, okay, perfect, Jen. Both do a mix, that's absolutely fine. Mondley face-to-face as well, Kesh both. Okay, guys, so the reality is what you need to do is do a dry run on those interview questions, because the way you've written the questions, the way you've asked the questions, the way that they are presented might not be fully understandable. In your dry run, please also make sure that you spend a bit of time on clarifying questions. Remember, when we do these interviews, we do them and we have these open-ended questions. The intention with those open-ended questions is to get someone talking. Remember, if somebody is not giving you everything, remember to prompt, remember to get the people to give you a bit more. Guide in terms of, you know, listen, I want more information. You can't ask leading questions, and I think we know that. But just keep asking more, prompt and carry on until you've got a lot of data-rich information. That is heck of important. Insofar as the quantitative people are concerned, can I just quickly, with a show of hands, see who are the quantitative people? Jades, Nadia, Sheila, James. Okay, Nads, I've got you. Nadia, I've got you. Just remember, in terms of those questionnaires and obviously setting it up on Google Forms. One of the things you have to remember on Google Forms is you have to rearrange the order in terms of the numbering, because the default on Google Forms is that it goes from almost always to very, very seldom. It's in reverse order. You want to make sure that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that 5 is almost always in terms of the Likert scale. So be careful of the default in terms of Google Forms. You've got to get that right. Secondly, can I just check? Please tell me that everyone who is doing quantitative is using existing scales that have already been verified and been declared to be valid. Okay, that's wonderful. So just personalize the scales for you, and then, oh, that's wonderful, guys. And can I just see, has it been difficult to find these scales? They're out there. It takes a bit of searching. It takes a bit of searching. I think when we initially looked at titles and topics, I think we already started finding scales for people at that point. Okay. So that to me is also important. Yeah, no, I recall that, guys. I try and help with that kind of stuff. So in terms of what we have is we've done all of this now. I mean, we've spoken about the population and things like that. However, when we look at the kind of quality things that you're aiming for, you're looking for, let me do it this way. Sorry, my apologies. Let me use these. So you generally want to make sure that you have statistics that ultimately take you to something that indicates reliability and validity. Now, the reason we have statistics is simply that, oh, flippin' hell, man. Sorry, I'm being recorded there. Sorry, guys. I have really bad bronchitis and the brain is as fuzzy as heck. The drugs are fantastic, though, to admit. Right, there it is. So the reason we have statistics is because we want to prove that we were objective. Now, we're not going overboard in terms of in terms of statistics. We will use basic descriptive statistics. We'll look at what those are. Now, I know that we are expecting everyone to at least try and get to some sort of correlation. I know that one or two of you are not doing that. I think for me at an honors level, the bare minimum should be correlation. But if your supervisor disagrees with that, that's absolutely fine, as well as long as you've done mean, mode, median, those kinds of things. So main reason why we use statistics is because we want something that is generalizable. We want something that is objective and that can be verified. Should somebody use exactly the same process, that they should achieve exactly the same results. Now, in terms of statistics, I think there are a couple of things that we need to remember. The first thing, it's about gathering the data. And in order to get your data perfect, we have to make sure that the forms that we use, the forms that you use, or the questionnaires and the questions in the questionnaire that you use have been verified, have already been checked to be valid and reliable. The second part is about analyzing the data. We will talk about that kind of analysis. One of the things that I think you need to realize at this point in time, for the first time ever, once you've done this analysis and interpretation, you will be contributing to existing theory. So to me, this is the most fun part, but also the most difficult part of what we do. Because prior to this, most of the stuff that you've presented has been based on information from sources. And yeah, you might have reorganized and rehashed it. But this is the point where you start creating your own bit of knowledge. It is at a very, very low level, but still, I think we need to remember that this is difficult because it's supposed to be difficult because you are creating your own bit of knowledge. And then just in terms of presenting the data, the nice thing about using Google Forms is that it does a lot of analyses for you, and you can simply copy the tables and graphs from there and include that in your discussion. What makes a quantitative report interesting is that it can be quite visually appealing, and in fact has to be visually appealing. A little bit more difficult for us in qualitative to make it visually appealing, but we certainly will make sure that that actually happens. Guys, and then, yeah, whatever projections, forecasts. I think what we need to remember is we'll talk about contributions. And we've said this a number of times. When we contribute at this level, we want to contribute to practice, we want to contribute to decision making, we want to contribute to a bit of theory. So when we spend time putting this together, essentially we're creating best practices for other people to follow. Practice policy and then decision making with a small component of theory. Those elements are important because in the back of your mind, you need to have those in mind as you interpret, as you start making suggestions, as you start writing up your report, because you want to tie it back to those kinds of consequences, those kinds of things where we want to contribute. And yeah, in terms of statistical analysis from an organizational perspective, I think everything that an organization does now, opening a new store in a new area, is 100% based on statistics. Oh gosh, my apologies for that, guys. You know, when I don't know what I want to say, I fake these coughing fits. Sorry, hold on. Guys, please hold on. Let me just find a cough lozenge. Apologies about that. Okay. Sorry, guys. This is pathetic. Oh my gosh, it's useless. Okay. So, in terms of the kind of stats that we're looking at, this is where we are at. Now, you'll see that we want at least descriptive stats. So, the kinds of discussions that you'll have, and you'll see that once we start sharing past papers on this, or we've already shared some of those with you, how they've gone about doing the analysis. But the analysis is one thing, guys. It is what you do with the results of the analysis. It's what you do with the findings. This is as important for you as it is for the qualitative people. Qualitative people will go and they'll do some sort of content analysis and find patterns and trends. And those are fine, but it is how you use that. It is how you write that up. It is how you interpret that and how you connect it back to existing theory. So mean median mode, I think if you don't know this by now, you should ask for your money back. Having said that, we'll definitely go through that again. And then, yeah, you definitely will tell us the range. You'll talk about your standard deviation. You can discuss variance. You will see what areas specifically you will do, because it will depend on what comes out of the actual questionnaires being completed. Can I just see, is everyone aiming at a minimum of 25 questionnaires, or are there people hoping to get 50 questionnaires done? Ideally, we would like to see 50, but the minimum is 25. Can I just see what the intention is in terms of the number of questionnaires to be completed? Is everyone aiming for at least 25, or are there people wanting, I'm hoping to see 50?
Doc, is this both for qualitative and quantitative?
No, questionnaires is quantitative, but so for qualitative, a maximum of 8 people to be interviewed and a minimum of 8 people to be interviewed. Okay. Ethan, if you can get 100, that's wonderful, because it makes your stuff nicely generalizable. Oh, that's wonderful, to Sheila. But if you can do that, it gives us generalizable data. It gives us a really powerful mechanism as well in terms of correlation. That's blimmin' good, guys. That is, I mean, you definitely understand the importance of numbers. Please don't think, for the qualitative people, that because you only interview 8 people, I promise you, 8 people can give you significantly resource-rich information. And you want to, we're not going for saturation, but if you get to saturation at 5 and 6, then just remember, you don't have to do 8. So if you believe you've achieved saturation at 6 because 4, 5, and 6 told you exactly the same thing, then you don't have to go to 8. But you don't go beyond 8. Okay. If you want to go to saturation, saturation, depending on some of the topics that we have, might only happen at 14 and 15. And it will be a hell of a thing to do the analysis of that. Because remember, you've got to transcribe each interview, you've got to code each interview, you've got to take those codes and turn them into categories, turn those categories into themes. So I think 8 is perfect. You cannot imagine how much information you can glean from 8 resource-rich participants, Neil. I think you guys will see that your interviews will run up to an hour sometimes. And remember, what we do then in terms of qualitative is, once we've done our analysis and once we've got our themes, we would then connect that back to existing literature as a way of verifying. So it is a big process. It is a big process. So generally, qualitative goes a little quicker initially in terms of the interviews, but the analysis is significant. Quantitative analysis goes a lot quicker, but in terms of interpretation, that takes a bit of time for both. Okay. Right, so at least that, guys, as I Gabs, just on my phone, send me who your supervisor is, please. Go for it, Nadia.
So I said in my research proposal, I'm aiming for 25 to 50 participants, but does that mean I'm still allowed to gather if I can? Is it possible for me to?
Respondents, Nadia?
Yes, sorry, to
Respondents. Yeah, sorry, I'm being an
increase.
absolute pain, but it's that golden thread, and I'm an
Yes.
absolute pain when it comes to, and I
No,
think you
it's
know
fine.
that.
No, so my question is, in my proposal, I say 20 to 50 of 25 to 50 respondents, but am I allowed to try and still aim for 100? I didn't
Those are
realize.
minimums. Those are
Yes.
minimums. So
Okay.
absolutely
Okay.
you can. Those are
Yes.
minimums.
Okay.
So when we read the proposal, we take those as minimums. So you 100% can go to 100. Okay. I hope that
Okay.
makes
Thank you.
sense, guys. No, it's a
Yes, it
pleasure,
does.
Nadia. Absolute pleasure. Gabs, have you sent me that person's name?
I'm gonna do it right now. Sorry, I'm doing a million things at once. I'm
No,
technically
don't
still
worry.
working too, so
I'm so sorry, Gabs. Okay, that's fine. Honestly, not more than 8. You can't limit interviews to 30 minutes. If you have resource-rich people, you can't say 30 minutes max. In terms of interviews, there is no maximum. It is, okay, I'll speak to him. Okay, I'll speak to him, Gabs. So I'll get him on my page because my page is definitely correct. Okay, so you can't say a maximum of 30 minutes. It's not how qualitative research works. And also, you would never interview 12. That's completely ridiculous. You would, looking at the kind of topics that we have here, have data saturation way before that. Okay, I will talk to him. I definitely will remind him. Okay, thanks, Gabri. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that I'm on the same page as the supervisor. I don't have the same relationship with all supervisors, guys, but I have a very good relationship with Ruan, so that's quite easy. Okay. Right. So in terms of descriptive statistics, I think we try and get to a point that this stuff is presented in a beautifully colorful way. And to be honest with you, if you see how Google Forms summarizes these statistics, it is easy to simply cut and paste and bring those into your document. Please the quantitative people, we want a really visually appealing report submitted, okay? It's very possible for you to do it. Qualitative people, a little bit more difficult, but we'll talk about how we make it visually attractive, okay? So in terms of your stats, you need to know what your range of data is, minimum and maximum, and then also your central point. Now remember, you will have 2 variables. So you will have one variable where you look at all the descriptive statistics, the mean, median, mode, and you'll do that for the other variable as well. The moment we bring those 2 variables together is when we do the correlation. Insofar as the correlation is concerned, I will share a video recording that makes it so easy for you to do. I'll make sure that it is available. It comes from Paula. Paula did it for me. Sorry, guys. This is really unprofessional. I'll share that with you. Okay. So let's have a glance at the stats and how we do that. So you'll end up with your mean, right? And it is obviously all the data divided by the number of data. And then your central points, exact central point, your median. And yeah, you'll arrange in ascending order. Please, just another reminder, make sure that when you use Google Forms, it defaults in the opposite direction. It has most frequent under the low score and most infrequent under the high score. Please swap that around when you do your Google Forms. Has anyone encountered that with using Google Forms yet? Please keep an eye out for that. Is everyone using Google Forms, or are you using, I know Microsoft has their own forms, etc. Oh, fantastic, Tashila. We have no issue with that. I think Microsoft defaults to low and high. They stay the standard approach that we're looking for. And then, guys, in terms of the mode, the number that appears most often, I really don't want to go through this. You should know this. And then your distribution, and this is where we get the opportunity, guys, to create that visually appealing report. This stuff here, this bit at the bottom, comes from Google Forms. So Google Forms and Microsoft Forms will do these kind of summaries for you, and they present them in a beautiful color way and colorful way. We'll also look at the spread of the data. So we'll look at the deviation and how far standard deviation is and how we create the standard bell curve, guys. So in terms of, we all know that the IQ, the average IQ is 100. And yeah, they say it's 85, but 100 will sit right in the middle of that. So when we look at this one here, your IQ, average IQ is 100. And those that are particularly bright will go from there. Once you get to about they say 130 is genius level. I think it's slightly higher. But we can see how far you are from the average, depending on where your IQ score is. Okay. And if your IQ score is on this side, then obviously you're Donald Trump. And yeah, and he's somewhere down here. Can I just see, has anyone ever had an IQ test done? Please don't do the IQ tests online and think that those are real, guys. No, Ethan, you don't. You don't want to know your IQ, bud. You don't want to know your IQ. I think the danger with knowing your IQ, imagine you have your IQ tested and they tell you you're sitting at 85. The self-fulfilling prophecy kicks in. So no one should ever know what their IQ is. Or you could be sitting up here somewhere, and no matter what you do, you are just plain average. Kesh, you don't want to know. The question is, what happens if you find out that you have a pretty low IQ? It's silly. You don't want to know that. I think all that IQ is your potential to acquire knowledge. It is chronological age over mental age times 100. I know my IQ is low, and I really don't want to find out how bloody low it really is. So I wouldn't go for an IQ test. No, please don't do the online ones. They're not accurate. You have to have it done by a psychologist. So you have to go to generally an educational psychologist, and you can go find out how, I'm just going to say, low or high your IQ is. I think you guys are all exceptionally bright. You should never know what your IQ is. No, it's not reverse psychology, Sarah. Go and find out, guys. Please go find out how really dumb you are. That is reverse psychology. That is 100% reverse psychology. Okay. Oh my gosh. Right, guys. Then correlation coefficient, guys. And I think this is what we're all aiming to, for and working towards. In terms of correlation coefficient, I think okay. I'm so sorry, guys. Guys, do you mind if we leave it there tonight? I really am